What's up, guys? I saw Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1 last night in Dolby Cinema at the early fan screening, and I want to give you my general non-spoiler thoughts on what I thought about it after letting it marinate. It's a 4 out of 5. This movie is great. It's excellent. Just amazing technical action film making. And Christopher McQuarrie has proven himself already by this point. He's a very capable director, and he excels at making these just beautiful, flowing action scenes. You know, it's all practical. You know, like invisible VFX shots. If there is VFX, which I'm sure there is, you know, it's invisible. And part of this is his team up with Tom Cruise. Just all the promotional stuff that comes out following up to these releases gets you hyped up and gets you ready to watch them. And, you know, part of what makes this series work is Tom Cruise's insistence on you knowing that when he does a stunt, it's him doing it and it's real. You know, maybe they do a VFX to hide a wire or something for the safety part of it, but you're watching it and you know, okay, if he jumped out of that plane, that's a real plane and he actually jumped out of it. And guess what? Watch this promo video on YouTube and he had to practice, you know, 500 million times. And, you know, on the 501st time, that's the take in the movie. So just great action filmmaking. And this is arguably, it could be the best of the franchise, maybe definitely top 3. For me, I'm going to put it at number 2, only because having rewatched the series up to this point, I really enjoyed watching Rogue Nation and following it up with Fallout the very next day. You know, that's very much a part 1, part 2 situation. It just wasn't marketed that way. You know, if you've seen the films, you know that the villain, while he gets captured at the end of Rogue Nation, you know, you think the mission's complete. The whole thing about Fallout is the villain's back in play, right? What's known as the Syndicate. Like his organization is back in play, and that's the through line. And this movie is not the Syndicate. This movie has a completely new villain, very interesting villain, I would say. I don't want to spoil anything, but when you're comparing this movie to Fallout, overall, in terms of the supporting cast here, let's say the villains, right? The actors in Fallout, you know, you have, in general, like not even just the villains, you have Alec Baldwin, Angela Bassett, you know, you have Henry Cavill, and Sean Harris, you know, and I just overall I feel like I liked them more and they brought more to the table than say the supporting cast here. You know, this movie overall, it's at that level. It's just the little minor quirks and details that might put one over the other for you. You know, one of the things that this could have been the best flat out, even with maybe the weaker supporting cast, specifically in the villain department. Not that they're bad. It's just that, you know, Henry Cavill is really good, and Sean Harris, you know, he could be describing to you how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and he would make it sound like the most sinister thing you've ever heard. He just, that gravelly voice that he has, and just his look, he's super creepy. But this movie, it's really good. Everything works. If I had my nitpick, it would be that the early on there's a group of supporting cast and they kind of have a meeting, and there's this kind of like explain like I'm 5 moment where they're explaining the threat, and they're using just, I feel like, way too many like variations of the same idea. You know, like I could say, oh, the sky is blue, right? And then I follow it up with the sky is blue and it has clouds, and or the sky is teal. Like I'm saying the same thing over and over again, right? And it felt like they were doing that, and it was just because they really wanted to spell out, this is the threat. The threat is bad. This could happen if the threat succeeds, you know, and it just really spelled it out. And I feel like I didn't need that much explanation. I guess maybe general audiences, they might need it. I don't know. I feel like I didn't need it. Once you see the movie, you'll get what I mean, where it doesn't take that much explanation to understand why this threat is a real threat. And I feel like just our own imagination and our own understanding of saying it once, and like your mind could wander and you would really understand, okay, like this threat cannot succeed. Like we need Ethan Hunt to neutralize this threat. You know, the IMF needs to win here. And besides that, I guess the movie kind of slows down and where you realize, okay, I'm watching a movie. This is writing. You know, that little scene. It's early on, so once that's over, the movie kind of gets into the groove of just action scene, small rest period, action scene, small rest period. You know, and where the movie works is the continuation of the relationships between the IMF team and Ethan Hunt. You know, Rebecca Ferguson, Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames. They all work, right? No complaints there. And I like that there's a continuation of the relationships from the other Christopher McQuarrie films to this one. No complaints there. Now, as a part one, I like that this doesn't have that cliffhanger moment like something like Spider Verse. Spider Verse, when I saw it, I felt like it ended right when the movie got the most interesting. And I feel like this movie overall in its script, whatever, in its filmmaking, its editing, I didn't have that feeling. I felt like it was consistently interesting. Now, yes, it uses like kind of tropey um MacGuffin type situation, you know, like we've seen it a million times by this point. It's like, oh, we gotta get the two halves. You know, literally, I saw it a couple weeks ago when I saw Indiana Jones 5. You know, like, oh, the two halves of this relic, and in this case, the two halves of this key. And yeah, it's tropey. Yeah, it's just a MacGuffin, but you can't help but like let it slide because of how good everything else is about the movie. You know, and compared to, let's say, overall as a box office like blockbuster experience, um, compared to Top Gun Maverick, this movie's really really good. But I would give the edge to Top Gun Maverick. You know, like that was just fun, like fun, and just I think it's just the hype of the surprise of like, wow, Top Gun Maverick is actually good. You know, like a 20 plus year later sequel is actually good. You know, Mission Impossible already has gone into the groove where you expect it to be good. Like if you liked Rogue Nation, if you liked Fallout, there's already an expectation. And you know, they're Christopher McQuarrie, very capable. Tom Cruise, he promises and he delivers. So overall, great film, and definitely top three. I think you should watch it. Just a little nitpick in the script elements, you know, like they gotta explain the threat a little bit too much. I would cut that down. Maybe some parts, maybe the movie's a little bit too long. You could definitely shave 20 minutes, but I feel like that's just a common problem nowadays, where movies are just too long. They need to be shaved down. They need to move, you know? And, you know, going back to Indy 5, actually, the comparison of the MacGuffin isn't even the end of the comparison between the two movies. You know, Phoebe Waller Bridges' character in that film is actually very similar in terms of the idea of her character to Haley Atwell's character in this movie. And I hated Indiana Jones 5. It was really bad. It was just boring, right? And Phoebe Waller Bridge's character was kind of insufferable. But man, Haley Atwell works. I think it's literally the good version of Phoebe Waller Bridge's character in terms of like the writing. She has just great chemistry with Tom Cruise. Easily fits into, you know, the supporting cast, you know, the IMF team. And I think that I'm excited to watch part two. You know, definitely, I'm excited to watch part two. Um, seeing more characters, more actors, like this is just top tier action filmmaking.